All right, good morning and happy race day. We have finally made it to the Daytona 500. I'm super excited for today's race. So let's go over the race preview and initial thoughts. So when we get to these types of tracks, you're going to hear a lot from everyone this week. It's going to be stack the back. Well, when we say stack the back, why are we saying that? What do we really mean? So on these styles of tracks, place differential upside is really the biggest focus, and you can get the most amount of place differential the further back that you start. These races tend to be very chaotic. Everyone runs in a pack. There's not really, a focus on running the fast laps because it's randomized throughout the field. Leading laps isn't super important because you can lead, you know, the first two stages and then wreck out and finish 28th, and it might lose you all those points. So, really, the focus is place differential upside and then trying to find some leverage options throughout the field when it comes to ownership. Um, Oftentimes, you'll hear about the big one. Usually, you're waiting. There's going to be some close instances where it looks like they're going to wreck, or maybe they are going to wreck, and you're really just hoping that your drivers that you select make it through the crashes. So, um, the only thing to be mindful of is they did move the race up. There is a chance for a weather delay, which is always just a bummer. Hopefully that doesn't happen, or if it does happen, they can go back green and go back racing. There's nothing worse than a shortened race. But it's out of our control at this point. So when you're building lines, also salary really doesn't matter. I would say the biggest thing is really just focusing on the grid and trying to get most of your drivers starting at least in the second half of the field or further. Um, so let's go through here. So if you watch the dual races, the first dual race was pretty chaotic. We had a lot of accidents, a lot of wrecks. So because of that, we have some really big name drivers starting deep in the field, and they're going to see significant ownership, like probably 35, 40, maybe even to the 50% in tournaments. So pricing is pretty soft. You can really play whoever you want. William Byron is looking to go win his third Daytona 500 in a row. That'd be a pretty cool thing to do. He starts deep in the field, starts 39th. He will probably be the highest owned play on the slate, or at least one of the highest owned plays. So if you're playing cash games, he's basically a core lock for those tournaments or, those types of games. In tournaments, though, might be good to go a little bit under the field leverage wise. If you know he's going to come in at 45%, maybe you play 35% or 30% of Byron and try to sprinkle in some guys that are also starting deep in the field, but maybe don't have the name recognition or the top tier equipment, but have that similar upside. Um, when we get to drivers inside the top 10, so we got Larson, Blaney, Logano, and Elliott in this 9K range. I don't really want to play any of them, to be honest with you. Larson has never won on these track types. It's really clear to him that he wants to get rid of that narrative. But even if he does win, like starting eighth, yeah, you get some place differential upside points. But if Denny Hamlin starts 22nd and finishes third, or Bubba Wallace starts 27th and finishes second, like you're getting significantly more place differential upside and safety with those types of plays versus if Larson starts eighth, wrecks out, finishes 29th or something, like that just is really a day killer versus you can still potentially cash with other guys in your lineup that wreck that start deep in the field. So not really interested in Larson. Blaney, I'm not really interested in him either. He's getting a lot of ownership. He's one of the better super speedway racers that we have in the field. So because of that, he gets a lot of ownership. But again, I don't really care too much about the driver. I really care about where they're starting. Starting fifth really limits your upside. Now, Denny Hamlin had a pretty rough offseason. Starts 22nd. He is one of the better super speedway racers in the field as well, too. I would say he was a lot better at this in the previous car than he is at the next gen. But he does have 3 Daytona 500 wins to his name, which is something. Starts mid-pack, so more of a tournament play for me, but he has a very similar upside to downside. Logano, basically the same thing as Blaney. You get to see ownership, it starts too high. Elliott, you get to see ownership, starts too high. Logano and Elliott were your dual winners, so that might also give them some more ownership than I would like to see. I'd much rather play the Bubba Wallaces and the Austin Cindrics. So Austin Cindric's going to be another one of those core cash game plays. Everyone's going to play Byron. Everyone's going to play Cindric. Everyone's going to play Chris Buescher. Everyone's going to play Ross Chastain. It's really clear to see, who those big chalky drivers are going to be that are going to just suck up all that ownership. Um, so when we get to Bubba Wallace, he'll probably still see ownership, but his ownership will definitely be less than those other guys we just talked about. So, um, that's a good way to get a little bit different, a little bit more of a tournament play. Yes, his ceiling isn't as high as the Cindrics and the Byrons, but it's a great way to get some leverage on the field. Kyle Busch starts first, probably the worst play on the slate from a DFS standpoint, just with he has no place differential upside at all to offer us, and that's our main focus, so we're not really interested. Keselowski is coming off a leg injury this offseason, which I'm a little, weary about. I think he'll be fine, but even without the leg injury, starting ninth, not really interested. Now, Alex Bowman is a guy I am interested in. You know, Even you can find like small leverage points within the field. So even if you are like, hey, I want to get, some guys that start in the middle pack of the field, a lot of people are probably going to click on Hamlin because he starts 22nd. He's really good. He has all these Daytona 500 wins. Well, we'll go right down to Alex Bowman. He starts right next to him. Likely he's going to see less ownership, and that's another good way to get some leverage. So he's still more of a tournament play for that reason. But these little pivot plays, sometimes it's just one pivot or two pivots, and you can still play these chalky drivers. That's kind of a good way to differentiate yourself, or that's at least how we like to attack these slates. Chris Buescher starts 31st, so it's pretty cool this year. We have 41 drivers that are in the field. Thanks to the provisional. He's in a backup car. There's a lot of drivers in backup cars. I'm really not too worried about being in a backup car. He has the most amount of upside of anyone in the field. I think even if he doesn't gain any spots and finishes last, he earned 0 points, which, trust me, is a lot better than playing someone like Chase Briscoe that finishes for 41st, because you get a lot of negative points, which is just a day killer. Christopher Bell, a little bit more of a tournament play, super high risk. He's really not going to see that much ownership, but once you start getting outside of the top 10, that's when interest levels slowly but surely start to creep up. Ross Chastain starts really deep in the field. He's going to be a core, cash games play. Ryan Preece, another guy, starts mid-pack, a little bit more of a tournament play. Really not going to see that much amount of ownership to him. Briscoe, Hocevar, again, they start inside the top 10, so we're not really interested. Reddick's another guy like Bubba Wallace. Even Reddick will probably see less ownership than Bubba Wallace does. Bubba Wallace is pretty good on these track types, but Reddick starts, in the second half of the field in the 20s. Not going to see the ownership that the guys in the 30s have, but has still more upside than downside. Zillich, I think, is going to be popular just based off of where he starts. However, not having the experience sometimes on these track types is really clear and evident. It's still, there's a lot of luck involved. Don't get me wrong, but there's still a lot of skill involved in navigating this race, making it to the end, and trying to get a good finish. But just off the place differential upside alone, it's hard not to want to click on him to get him into your lineups. Eric Jones is another guy like the Reddicks. Starts mid-pack, isn't going to see that much ownership, has good upside. Stenhouse, we usually get him starting deeper in the field, where he usually is like one of the highest owned plays. Now he starts mid-pack, so I'm not really as interested. Ty Gibbs, right in the middle of the field, has the same amount of upside as he does downside, so he's a tournament play. I'm not really getting the Berries, the Suarez's, the McDowells. They just still start too far forward. Yes, they give us a little bit of place differential upside. Yes, they will probably be pretty low owned, but more tournament only types of plays if you're just trying to get aggressive. Allgaier made the field again in the JRM crew, which is pretty cool to see back-to-back years. Starts 40th, so there's a lot of upside there as well too. Austin Dillon, probably going to be one of the lowest owned plays on the slate. but starts seventh. So even if you do play him, yes, you'll probably get a lot of leverage on the field, but is that leverage actually valuable? And even if he wins the race, there's a lot of other guys that have a lot more place differential upside than he does. AJ Allmendinger, another guy that's going to be popular, starts really deep in the field. You don't really have to overthink it too much. John Hunter Nemechek starts too far forward, tournament only play. Todd Gilliland, kind of right in that range where we start to go up to medium level interest. So still, I don't really want too much Todd Gilliland, but if I sprinkle him into 20 maxes or 150 maxes, like that, I can see that happening. Jimmy Johnson, you know, usually hit or miss, usually a miss when it comes to these types of races. His next gen stats are not very good, but that doesn't really matter at Daytona. Like it's really just about starting position, and he starts deep in the field, so that he's gonna, warrant ownership. He's gonna warrant, us wanting to play him. SVG, another guy, kind of in that weird, right outside the top 10 range where there's really not that much upside. Zane Smith, a guy that probably won't see the same amount of ownership that the Chastains, the Bushers, the Byrons see, the Cindric see, but he starts deep in the field. So that's a great way to get some leverage right there. Like you swap out a Byron for a Zane Smith. Like there's your pivot play and you play the rest of the chalk. Like little things like that. Cole Custer, Noah Gregson, other guys that kind of start in the mid pack of the field won't see that much ownership, but they are definitely in the player pool. Corey Heim, another guy, just like Zane Smith, starts pretty far back in the field, not a name recognizable talent, at least in the Cup Series. A lot of people won't click on him. The salary is pretty low. Ty Dillon's another one. Like, I don't really care about the equipment they're in or who the driver is or the price. Like, these guys all start deep in the field. It's going to warrant me playing them. Riley Herbst is another guy. A lot of people don't want to play Riley Herbst, but he starts 28th. So there's more places for him to gain than there are for places for him to lose. And don't be afraid to play these, quote unquote back marker cars, these poor equipment cars. Like sometimes that can actually be a good thing to be not in the heat of the pack, because if you're so far back and the pack wrecks, they take out 10, 15 guys, you're so far back that you have enough time to break and avoid it. So sometimes that can help. However, we do see these cars usually go multiple laps down just because they don't have uh, the amount of teams to pit with them and kind of stay on the cycle. But McLeod starts deep. Cody Ware starts deep. A lot of people don't want to play these guys. Don't be afraid to sprinkle them into lineups. I know I'm going to have a lot of ownership to McLeod and Ware. Casey Mears might be the lowest owned play on the slate. Starts 17th in MBM, equipment. Not really interested too much there, just basically on starting position. If he started, outside of 20th, maybe. So maybe you sprinkle him in for tournaments, knowing you get low ownership. So that's going to do it for the Cup Series race. Thank you guys for sticking with us this year. I know we made some announcements regarding the Xfinity Series, or I should say the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series and the Truck Series. Been thinking with the team on that. We might post a announcement maybe next week on X. It's at Fast Cars FM. But if you guys want access to this, it's at Fast Cars FM on Twitter. Otherwise, hopefully this video is helpful. I hope everyone enjoys the race. Hopefully we can make some money today, and I will catch you guys all next weekend.